these, like what they're for. And then of course the directions do the same thing. So that's that. Next is the tachometer, and I'm going to do the same thing where I've got to cut away the existing wire ties that tie to that little bar, and then clamp it all back together and independent of the bar. I'm going to go ahead and cut this check engine light. Because their wires are kind of in the way. Same as before, I'm just going to group them together because they're color-coded wires. So putting them back together would be a breeze. This bezel did not come with the holes for the check engine light or the battery light. I added those. Just kind of chose a location that would be out of the way, and it made sense. I'll show the bezel after I remove it, be able to see where those are. Okay, check engine light. These are those little tiny wire ties, maybe 4 inches long at the most. Alright, so on this one, we're using terminals 15 and 18 rather, nothing on 16 and 17. So I'm going to actually mark those out. So 15. And 18. On the bottom, we're not using 19, so we're using 20, 21, and 22. 20. One. And 22. I'm mostly counting out loud so that if I goof up, like I think I already have, I think I have one here that I put tape on it, but I didn't write the number. But I think I might have said the number out loud. So I might have to go back and look at the video to see what it is. Anyway, this is 22. Tiny little light. All right, I'm going to take that gauge out. So again, there's what the back of it looks like, and it has this little map up here. So for example, on this one, I didn't use 15 and 18. I'm sorry, I didn't use 16 and 17. I was going to say, I know I used 15 and 18. So one of those is one of the lamps, the other one is a ground that's unnecessary. The third one is accessory power, which isn't necessary. So the instructions, when you install them, they explain how you choose what you need to use. Some of the stuff is necessary and applicable, and some of it is not. Like at least in my application, it doesn't mean it won't be in another application. All right, just two more little ones. Take this other thing out of there. So now we're back to the 7/32. This is number 23. That's the quarter that we're not using. And next is 24. figures. This one has a wire that has the round connector. I'm going to fix that right now. I'm just going to cut the tip of this off. Now to slide over that post, and won't ever have to worry about having to take the whole thing apart again. So this is 24. These two are 25 on the next gauge now, the last gauge. And if I lost, if I didn't tag one of these, or even all of them, it would suck. But the fact is, like this one I didn't tag right here. I know roughly what it is. Oh, actually it is tagged. I thought it wasn't, but I can see the number now. But if I lost the tag or whatever, these are all pretty easy to trace just because of the instructions, having the instructions right here. And I color coded most everything. So when I put my gauges together, I used green wire for all the grounds. And then I used red wire for all the, everything that wasn't a ground. And then some of the things have their own wire, their own colors, like these lights have red and black. So in my case, I just know that red is always going to be the hot one, and black is always going to be the return to ground. Let's see, I'm on 26. So that helps a little bit now, when I'm fumbling around and guessing at what goes where. And last one is 27. Technically I don't need to mark, but I'm going to anyway. This is the temperature sender. This wire goes to the actual sending unit. And I know that because the Ron Francis system, all the wires are labeled, and this is not a power wire or a ground wire for a gauge. This is actually the signal wire. So right on the wire it says temp sensor. Every one of these will have something like that, to the extent it goes to something that is part of the Ron Francis setup, and most everything here is. Alright, that's it. All the wires are loose. So now I just have to take these two gauge clamps off, and the bezel will be free. Oh, I gotta break loose these lights. I forgot about this, the high beam light. This thing is tiny. These are really tiny wires. But I'm gonna group them together just so I don't lose the two of them. I don't really have to label them. They can't go anywhere. They're really close to the gauge. So that's it. It is free. Take these last two gauges off. I lost a nut. It's somewhere in my lap. Somewhere around here. Where is that last nut? Ah. All right. So that's off. I don't know if you can see, but I'll show with the camera the difference between the original version and the replacement. And so I'm going to move this over to the bench. We'll install all the gauges back in this thing and put a couple towels up here to protect it, and then we'll start reinstalling the new bezel with all the new gauges on it. I mean, with all the gauges on it. So here's the new bezel, here's the old one. Looking at the old one first, you can see where the chrome is all chipped off in a bunch of places. It just didn't tolerate being taken in and out a few times. It almost immediately began to flake off, and I can just scrape it with my fingernail pretty lightly and scrape off pieces of chrome. Also, this backing plate here, the finish on the new one seems to be much nicer. So here is the new one. The chrome's in perfect condition, and again, this part of the bezel seems to be much nicer. The back of both is pretty similar. They changed this design a little bit, but doesn't really affect me at all. This thing comes with both turn signal lights and your high beam light already in. And if I had any complaint about that, the high beam light is ridiculously bright. You cannot drive. You can't forget that your high beams are on because there's so much light coming out of that little blue light, and it's right there in the middle. So I don't know if that's good or bad, but I keep thinking I'm going to put a resistor or something on mine. I'm not sure if you can do that with an LED. But it's fine. It does what it's supposed to do, so that's the important thing. So now, I need to drill my two holes. I forgot about this. I'm glad I just noticed that. This hole and this hole for those other lights, for my battery light and my check engine light. I've got to drill those here and here. So I'm going to figure out exactly where they are, so I put them in the same place again and mark those and drill them right now. Have that done before I start installing gauges. Alright, so I got the battery and the check engine lights installed. It's pretty straightforward and didn't destroy anything on the process, so that's unusual for me, but of great in this case. I laid out my gauges in the direction they're going, so I'm going to go ahead and install them. I'm doing all this on a nice fluffy microfiber pad, so I'm certain not to damage the gauges. So the name of the game on this is getting this stuff in, level. I'm going to put the 4 little ones in and just flip it over, and then I'll put the brackets on the back and then flip it back to finish it. And the couple of posts where I had to take off the nut and washer, there's one here and one here. I'm going to go ahead and put those nuts and washers back on. And I've already cut the terminal connector for this one, clipped the end of it. I'm going to do it when I reinstall that one. I'm going to reinstall everything in the reverse order, I think, for no particular reason other than, I don't know, just seems like a natural way to do it. So now I'm just barely snugging them up. Excuse me, just so there's no play in it. And I'm lining up the things square, level, based on where the mounting studs are coming out of the back. I think that's should be a level line. So fuel and oil look good, voltage is messed up. Oh yeah, I can see it too. There we go. Wrong way. So that's unusual. The voltage gauge is askew as far as this line right here. But on the front, the word volts is level. So I'm not sure why, but it's okay. I just want it to be level. I'm less concerned about why. Water needs to go just a hair. There we go. Alright, those are perfect. So I'm going to snug them up. They don't go real tight anyway. These little brackets have little tiny teeth that grab. And this is molded plastic, so it grabs it pretty well. And they're all sitting on there nice and flush. So I'd call that pretty perfect. Now the speedometer, and then the tack will be last. Great. One more. That's it. All installed. Seem to be perfect. Looks great. So now I'll move everything over to the car and get set up over there, and we'll put it all back together.